Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. We know everyone's coming from work and their after-school activities, so we're so excited to bring you this presentation. We've worked for several months on this. I'll just introduce ourselves before we start off. I'm Anushka.
I'm Swanvi.
And I'm Shriji.
So I'll just share a little bit of how we actually got here today. This started as our AP research class project. I was actually absent, and my group members, one of them is missing, Alina. She's out of country, but they picked vaping as one of our topic. And when I came back, I was like, guys, why did you pick vaping? It's just vaping. What are we gonna do? We should have picked something more interesting. But that was the mistake in my conversation and the issue we're seeing in our society today. Because as we continued with our research, we noticed so much of why vaping is so crucial and how it's creating a problem and how it's important that we address it. And we covered different topics. I covered economic, Tanvi covered social and cultural, Shriji did health implications and how it affects our health, and Alina did the ethical perspective and more of the solutions of how we can target vaping. So that's a little bit about how we got here. So this started as a project, but now it's become a mission to sort of get people's minds changing on how we address vaping, which brings us to our mission. So our mission is to help create conversation, stimulate conversation, to denormalize vaping in our communities, because we've gotten so used to seeing someone vaping and being like, oh, they're just smoking a vape, what can we do? But we need to really start seeing it as they're smoking a vape, that can kill them, that can really hurt them. So that's the kind of conversation we're trying to start and denormalize it, this is not okay and we should really stop this. So I just want to start with how many people know a vape or have seen a vape? Can you raise your hand? Okay, that's where we're going to start today, because not many parents know what a vape is, which makes it so hard for children to stop vaping or identify the issue, because we really need parents to come in and help us as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to identify a vape. So vapes are also called e-cigarettes or ENDS, which are electronic nicotine delivery systems. So what a vape is, it essentially comes in a container, and there's a cartridge in it that has liquid, and that liquid is vaporized and then delivered into your body, which makes it a lot harmful, because now we don't know what's in these liquids. We don't know what's getting vaporized. And they're used to deliver several drugs. One to mention is marijuana. We can call it weed, or then we have nicotine as well. So these, shockingly, there are so many different types of vapes. So here we have an image of, this is your most common type of vape. This is produced by a company called Juul, and that's what you will see mostly students have, but it does come in several different formats, as you can see. This is another popular one. How many of you guys have seen this kind of thing? It looks like a USB. Have you seen it on a parking lot floor or thrown somewhere? Because I know my mom has. We saw it somewhere in a parking lot, and she was like, is that a USB? And I was like, oh my God, don't touch that. That's not a USB. This is actually a vape cartridge that comes in the Juul. It goes inside, and this is what holds the liquid. And these things are also polluting our environment. Our district is seeing a plumbing issue as well, because when students get caught, they tend to flush these kind of things down the toilet, and we can imagine that's not good, and that's really impacting our community, and especially the school environment, the environment in which we trust that our children and our peers should be comfortable in.
So the vaping companies now are really trying to conceal their vape products, and you can see here that now to conceal these vapes in schools and other environments, we have it in highlighters, but it also comes in pen form. So we have very different forms of how to conceal a vape, and today we actually brought an example from Detective Ortiz, and you can see how it looks like a normal highlighter. It does not look like a vape at all. If you open it, it works like a normal highlighter. So these actually do work like normal highlighters. So teachers would get confused when they use them, because you can still use them as to annotate and do whatever with your work. But if you look at it, that there's an actual vape inside. So basically what happens is when students ask to go to the bathroom, that's the most common way students go to vape, there's actually a cartilage inside to open it and then actually use the vaping device. And obviously, I was joking, this is not a real vape, this is a highlighter, but you can see that I just showed you guys, and you guys totally believed it, like I'm pretty sure you guys all believe that this is a real vape, but it's not. So just please be aware of how vaping companies are concealing their products, and they don't just come in highlighters, they come in pens, and they're probably going to come out with more ways to conceal and hide the vaping devices in normal everyday products.
So one way we can really identify these vapes, even though they're being concealed so well as we saw today, is there's actually a port at the bottom of a lot of vaping devices. Because these are electronic, they need to be charged in order to work. And as we can see in Sriji's, there is no port at the bottom. So that one is not a real one. But if we were to have a real one, there would be a port at the bottom, which is one like key detail, which is a giveaway. So if you do see a vape, that's what you should look out for. We just have a short clip to show you guys of how these vapes really get stimulated into our environment and how everything really plays out in school when the parents are not there to watch, or how students deceive teachers. So.
Called when to start it.
And this useless called camera distance. The terms for camera distance are approximate, and they're usually derived from the scale of human bodies in the shot. Our examples are from the third man.
Yo, do you have it? Have what? Vape? Yeah, bro, please, I can't concentrate. Girl, you took a hit like 5 minutes ago. Whatever, dude, my head is killing me. Nah, chill out. I can't, that's the whole point. Man, I don't know, you know too much is not good for you. Who are you to judge? Just give me the freaking vape.
Billy and Alexis, is there a problem?
No, ma'am.
All right, write down. Okay, everyone, please write down your notes.
Begging you. Fine, just give it back.
Can I go to the bathroom? Sure, be quick.
One in 3 teens who tries a vape gets addicted. Research shows that teens who start vaping as adolescents are more likely to smoke cigarettes when they're older. Additionally, vaping as a teen will likely lead to a pattern of substance abuse as an adult. It's your choice, you or the vape.
So while we were doing our research and trying to identify the problem, we found that the most common misconception was that teenagers believe that vaping is safer than smoking. So how many of you guys have believed that a vape is a healthier alternative to smoking? Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. So most teenagers believe that vaping is a way to get rid of their smoking addiction and get into a healthier habit of vaping, but that's simply not true. And as we saw from the video, the girl in the video goes, I'm really stressed out, can I please have your vape? And that's also a common misconception. Teenagers usually use a vape to relieve their anxiousness, their depression, or when they're stressed. And as we can see from the statistic, that all age groups really do hit a vape, and the most common age group being 18 to 24-year-olds. And the percentage of teenagers who have reported using the vape in the last 30 days is most commonly at the age group of 17 to 18-year-olds.
So moving on to the health implications of how vaping can really affect you. So we all know vaping is bad. Like, it doesn't prove any good purpose to your body. But do you know what it targets in your body? What type of organs it affects? Well, there's 3 topics in the physical system that affects: respiratory, cardiovascular, and circulatory. So, and let's break it down. So respiratory, the vaping chemicals that are in the vape pen are introduced into your lungs, and they basically affect your lungs in a way, it can actually puncture your lungs and there can be a hole in your lungs. And surgery for it is not that easy to get. So we can see it's a real problem. And moving on to the cardiovascular. So the cardiovascular is the general heart area of it and like the organs and the hearts. And it elevates your blood pressure. So the more vape chemicals are introduced into your body, there's more of elevated blood pressure. And it basically triggers a surge of adrenaline, and too much adrenaline we all know is not good. And it also increases your heart attack, which can lead to a chance of a heart attack. And moving back to the respiratory, it can also affect a way of lung cancer. So none of this is, all these prove that it's not a good reason to vape. And moving on to excretory, these are like the organs. And basically, if you have too much vape chemicals into your body, it builds up excess of blood, in the organs, which is not too good. Too less blood, too much blood is not good. So usually we want just the right amount. And we can see that the vape chemicals bring like really, it brings negative changes to your inner physical. So moving on to the mental health. So how many of you guys, we all know that vape affects your hearts and your heart organs. But have you guys ever looked at the psychological aspect of it? So research was done by the New York Post, and you can see that from 2014, 2021, and now, that the quarter of young adults that do vape has exponentially increasing, and this is not a good alternative, as with Patanvi mentioned before, that cigarettes, people usually think that cigarettes tend to be a lot more dangerous than vaping, which they're both equally bad. So we can see here that why do individuals choose and believe it to be safe to vape? And we saw in the video that it's all peer pressure and curious of what it feels like. They think it'll reduce their stress. It'll just bring them just more joy. As that girl, she could not focus in class without hitting a vape, and that's just not healthy. And people also believe it to reduce stress, and we can see that if it in that video that it's your choice, and if you vape, it's honestly like gonna affect you mentally and physically. And instead of reducing your stress, it's obviously going to gain your stress, because you're gonna always want to have more like a daily dose of the vape. And it could also lead to like psychotic disorders, and these psychotic disorders tend to target your emotions, memory, focus, and self-control. So depression and eating disorders are all different types of mental like disorders that can affect, that vaping affects. And we need to be aware of how vaping can both affect us physically with the cardiovascular, respiratory, and excretory, but it can also affect your brain and the mental aspect behind it. So looking at the legal implications, so our school, we actually have this paper sign in front of every bathroom, and it's basically, to summarize it, it's like we've had a lot of people who vape in our school. So our detective and the superintendent, everyone put the sign up to make sure kids don't vape, and this doesn't usually work. Kids just ignore this and go to the bathroom and still choose to hit it. But it's still a real problem, and and to make this more possible for students to actually see, we've tried to implement this, as we've had other vaping seminars in this library. But so basically, as this is, it does say it's prohibited on school grounds. No student really looks at it. And I personally, when I go to the bathroom, it's always like stinking in there. It does not smell good. And I'm always thinking like, should I go to the bathroom? Is it the right time? Like, is there kids vaping in there? And I just don't know. So it's like, it not only affects your like mental and physical aspect, but it also, it's like, it just smells bad. And like, I don't think you guys really want that in your house, or like even in the school. It just doesn't smell good. And yeah, that's like basically the hygienic and physical and mental aspects of it.
And now moving on to some social and cultural aspects of vaping. So here we have a true story. Walker McKnight, he was 19 years old when he first hit a vape. He was a very successful student athlete, and he went to university. And when he got the idea of, I need to hit a vape, I feel very stressed. And from his peers, he learned that hitting a vape will reduce his stress, which is, as we know, is untrue. But after only 3 months of vape use, he ended up in a hospital in a critical condition, and he was fighting for his life. And what happened was, in the hospital, he had to get a double lung and a kidney transplant. And in this process, he lost 80 pounds, his left lung and both of his kidneys were destroyed. And now it affects his everyday life, as he has to go to dialysis sessions 3 times a week, physical therapy, regular doctor's appointments, and he has to take multiple naps throughout a day. And he still recalls that almost 90% of his friends still do vape. And this brings up the question that, why do kids still choose to vape even though they know of the health concerns and the health implications of vaping? And this is mostly because of the media. The media specifically chooses to target teenagers and younger students as they're more susceptible to TV shows and other marketing online. And in this study, we can see that 1,549 end users were surveyed. And from this survey, we can see that 27.5% of high schoolers report e-cigarette use. And of this percentage, 53.6% of them have reported that they have seen targeted marketing on social media targeting teenagers about vaping. And most of this marketing is from social media and other types of media such as vape stores, convenience stores, and popular social media sites like Instagram and TikTok. So now we're going to move on to starting a conversation. Since you guys have heard how detrimental vaping is, but now how can we start a conversation with our children, and how do we stop this situation from coming apart in the first place? And the first step is coming to a seminar like this. You guys have already made it to the first step, so congratulations. And yeah, we'll show you more ways to start a conversation.
So it's so important to start a conversation because we see vaping as a taboo. We don't want to expose our children to this, and I totally understand that we have so many parents here today. But I think that's like the first mistake we make, because if we're not educating our children, then a peer is educating your child. And I think as parents, we don't really want that because we don't know what your peer is telling your child or what's going on. So the first step is educating yourselves. Like Tommy said, you're already here. But now it's starting that conversation with your child. I'm so happy to see that we do have children here today who are ready to learn with us and you guys. So like I said, parents should educate themselves before starting a conversation. And we really helped you guys here, and thank you for helping us really start this conversation. And one more thing is focusing on facts and emphasizing its addictive nature. I know so many parents who get frustrated at their children, and their first instinct is to tell the child, oh, we're going to ground you, you can't do this, you can't do that. But it's really understanding that vaping it's a chemical addiction. Telling someone to stop, it won't really work like that. You have to really either seek help or start a real start talking to your child, understanding where this is coming from, what the root is. Because, like I said, these are chemical addictions. It's not just a bad habit, essentially.
Okay.
One more thing is conversation preparation, which is just knowing when to have this conversation and not starting out in a rude or angry tone, knowing how to address the issues with peers if they have issues with peers, because I know many no one likes to hear that their friend is bad and you have to stop interacting with them. So just knowing when to have these conversations, and like I said, be calm. It's not an easy thing even for the child. They know it's bad, but they've gotten stuck. It's essentially like a trap. Once you're in it, it's really hard to get out, because many students do it because they think, okay, we just want to do it once, let's see what happens. But vapes have a lot more nicotine than cigarettes do, which makes them highly, highly addictive. So either one hit may be addictive depending on the person. And use everyday examples. Like we used the example of Walker McKnight. He's it's a relatable person. He's a teenager like us, amazing student, athlete, everything, and his life kind of went downhill from there. So just knowing that there's people out there like them.
Yes. Reality of
So the most important part is that you're understanding to your child, listen to what they're telling you, and providing a listening ear. It's not a one-way conversation. Make sure you understand where they're coming from, and hopefully you can provide a thoughtful response with making sure that you involve their personal feelings and their mental health into the conversation. And also encourage positive peer groups. Maybe look at their friend group, figure out, are they a positive influence on your child? Because peer pressure is a real issue, and vaping starts mostly from friends. And monitoring their groups, making sure they're making good decisions is the best solution here. As well, we can seek professional help, such as therapists, doctors, and in school we have guidance counselors. Make sure you reach out to them first, ask for their advice, and move on from there. Thank you for coming today. Do you guys have any questions that I can answer? Yes.
I have two questions.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So in terms of the school district,
Yep.
what is the district doing about this as this is happening currently in the school?
Yep.
Now, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for the question. And as Shriji mentioned before, we have the superintendent and the district have put signs on the bathroom stalls to discourage vaping and letting them know of the fines that takes place and the repercussions that they face with vaping. And we're working on an even more effective solution because the problem still exists. And we're starting here today with initiating the conversation to think of a better solution and how we can help the district with our perspective as well as students.
The second question, what can we do to help your trade?
So I want to connect both of your questions. So the district has put in, we have vape detectors are a real device. The district has been finding ways to get access to these vape detectors, but like any advanced technology, they're extremely expensive. And I think as parents, it would be great, one, educating your child. You're already there, you've educated yourself, you're bringing your children out here. Another thing would be like reaching out within your own communities, your own companies, maybe in your family, seeing how they can maybe put in donations. We're trying to start like we said, we have a mission. We're trying to start this way of getting parents to help us out, to help the district as well, because the district is not just authority. The community makes up the district as well. So you guys are extremely crucial. So getting in your donations, if you can reach out to your companies, like I know there's so many companies out there who are willing to help out, like smaller communities around them. There are many who offer grants, but I feel like companies are a little despicable. Like they don't tell you these things, but there are these things, and that's one way you guys can help the district. Okay. Do you have any other questions?
What was the most alarming? What was the most alarming thing you found into the research? That's shocking or surprising to you?
I think each of us can go around because we all did a different perspective. For me, I did mine was the economic perspective. So I wouldn't say alarming, but what's shocking to me is many people think eliminating vaping would be a great solution, but actually we can't eliminate vaping. It's near impossible because for any of my finance people out there, vaping, the industry itself contributes almost $8 billion to the US GDP. So removing it entirely would eliminate several jobs. It would create several supply chain issues because we have manufacturers, then people who deliver them in stores as well. So I think that was most alarming because I was like, oh, why don't we just get rid of vaping altogether? Boom, that's the solution. But we can't do that. It's too well integrated into our society that we just can't.
And we were having conversations with people from our Board of Ed and Dr. Balrooney, and we found out that students start vaping earlier than we thought. We thought as high schoolers we have seen the extent of this problem, but no, students even as early as the 4th or 5th grade have started vaping, and that was mind-blowing to me, honestly. I didn't believe that was possible, but it's because of their peers, their friends, older friends, reaching out and getting these devices for them, and that was, the most shocking thing to me.
Yeah, as Tani mentioned, after speaking with the board, we did find out a lot more, which was very shocking. Just as we have 2 vape shops very close to our school, we're trying to prevent it. Our school literally has posters and signs up in our like school to prevent it. But yet there's like 2 vaping stores where kids can just go and vape, and a lot of these kids have fake IDs to show, and these vape stores are not as like credible, so they just hand it out to them, and it's just become a really big threat to our school and our community.
Yeah, and I think as parents, that's where you guys can come in, because the district alone can't really do anything about these vape shops, as there are independent shops. So outside Littleton, actually, we have 7-Eleven. They're more of a they have a chain, so we expect them to follow regulations. But we have 2 other shops, I believe, the one next to Tabor Pizza and then one to the opposite of it. And we don't know how well they actually follow these regulations, because New Jersey has placed bans, but we don't know if they follow them. And I think as parents, attending the town council meetings and really bringing up these issues, like I said, we're not just here to give you information. We want to start a community-wide conversation that vaping, as much as, I don't know if it's taboo, but I feel like it's taboo because we don't want to tell our children about it because maybe that will protect them, but that does the exact opposite. Because now we don't have people talking about the existing issue, and this is now creating more of an issue because we're trying to push it under the rug, but it's just becoming bigger and bigger.
Yes.
Is there a helpline or a number, like for example, you're saying that there are shops which are not following the regulations that they're probably selling it to where the kids learn. So say if somebody see it, is there a hotline number or a contact, where people can call it about those things?
In terms of legal regulation, I think the first helpline you would call is the police, but it's really hard because, like, I know the people out here. Who's really catching them? We're not going into the shops because I hope so, that's not who we are as people, so we're not going to really go in there and catch them. The people who are going in these shops are the ones who are buying them, whether it's they buy them legally or illegally per se. So who's really catching them is the question.
But for example, if you go to a 7-Eleven to buy emergency 1-liter Coke or Pepsi, and you notice that they're selling it to someone that they shouldn't be selling it to, will there be instead of like calling non-emergency police line, will there be a number specifically that we call?
We don't have a number that adults can probably reach out to, but this is something on back of all our IDs. There's a suicide number if you want to call, and this is suicide like maybe killing yourself, like that's killing, but like vaping is basically also killing you, because as I talked about, as these chemicals are coming into your lungs, it's like killing you. And we can see that number can also be reached out to, because they don't just reach out to like physical suicide, meaning like killing yourself, but like this is like internal suicide, I guess I would say. So you can still reach out to them, and they might, like as we said, like engaging a conversation. So this might be like a way to start a conversation, maybe like cut down your addiction, because as we said, like getting rid of vaping as a whole is impossible, but this is a start.
In terms of getting someone to recognize the issue, if shops are selling this illegally, the thing is, such a conversation, like I said, hasn't been brought up where people are noticing that like shops selling it in such a way. So maybe if we can get something going with the district or the state, because this is something that's really new. I don't know how many students like us are in the state or maybe in the area who are ready to do this, because many of our peers are worried about how they're going to be judged by people around them. So that's why we don't have numbers like this, because no one's really ready to speak up. So maybe if that's something everyone feels safer having, we can look into that.